right, so today we're taking a deep dive into something kind of different.
Okay.
You know how we love to bust myths and dig into tricky topics?
Yeah.
Well, this time we're looking at how people are doing that using
Mm.
rap and poetry.
Interesting.
Specifically, they're tackling some common misconceptions about Christianity,
Okay.
which, as you know, is a
Right.
topic with a lot of
Sure, for days.
different opinions and interpretations.
Definitely.
So I'm really curious to see how they're using these creative forms to, get their point across.
Yeah, me too. I mean, it's one thing to, write an essay or a blog post,
Yeah,
but to put those ideas into a rap or a poem,
right.
that takes a different kind of skill, and it probably reaches a whole different audience too.
Exactly, and that's what's so intriguing about this approach.
Yeah,
It's not just about the information itself,
you're right.
but about how it's presented and who it can reach.
Absolutely.
And, I think for our listeners who are all about expanding their knowledge in an engaging way, this is going to be fascinating.
I think so too, because it really taps into this long history of using art to challenge beliefs and transmit information.
Oh, yeah, totally. I mean, you think about like ancient Greece with their plays.
Exactly.
They were using those performances to question societal norms.
Right. Or even further back, you have oral storytelling traditions in many
Oh,
cultures.
yeah, like the griots in West Africa.
Exactly. They used music and storytelling to preserve history, but also to critique those in power.
Wow, it's like art has always been this tool for, shaking things up and making people think.
Absolutely. And what's so powerful about art forms like music and poetry is that they engage us emotionally,
Oh, yeah,
which can make the information more memorable and impactful.
you're right. It's like a song can stick with you long after you've heard it.
Exactly.
So in a way, it's like they're hacking our brains to make these ideas stick.
Kind of. Yeah. They're using the power of creativity to make their arguments more persuasive and memorable.
And we've got this one example from the source material that really stood out to me. This online persona, Firebrand Atheist,
Right.
they're using rap and poetry to specifically debunk common myths about Christianity.
Interesting. And what kind of stuff are they rapping about?
Well, they're tackling things like the idea of blind faith versus reason.
Oh, wow.
They're challenging interpretations of Scripture,
Mm-hmm.
and they're even addressing the problem of evil.
Okay, so some pretty heavy stuff.
Yeah, not light topics at all.
And how are they presenting these ideas in their raps and poems?
Well, in one piece they say,
Okay.
you say faith is blind, but reason's my guide. Show me the proof. Don't just let dogma hide.
Whoa, that's pretty powerful. And the way they use that rhyme and wordplay,
I know, right?
it makes this complex argument about faith versus reason so much more accessible and memorable.
Exactly. It's not just stating fact. It's like
Yeah.
this carefully crafted message.
Yeah, like they've really thought about how to make those arguments stick with people.
For sure. But I do wonder about using art to address these kinds of topics. I mean,
Yeah.
these are sensitive issues. Christianity is deeply personal for a lot of people.
For sure.
So isn't there a risk of oversimplification or maybe even misinterpreting these nuanced ideas?
That's a valid concern. I think there's always a risk of that when complex ideas are presented in a simplified form.
Right.
But what I find interesting about Firebrand Atheists is that they seem to be aware of this.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they actually encourage discussion and invite their audience to participate. They even have a section where they address counter-arguments and engage with differing perspectives.
So it's less about like preaching their own views.
Exactly. It's more about creating a space for open dialogue and exploration.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not what I expected.
Right. It's almost like they're saying, hey, I'm presenting my perspective through rap and poetry,
Yeah.
but I also want to hear what you think.
So it's more about starting a conversation.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's crucial, especially when you're dealing with potentially divisive topics.
Totally. Because it shows that they're willing to engage in good faith.
Exactly. And that they acknowledge the complexity of the subject matter.
And by inviting different viewpoints, they create an opportunity for, genuine learning and understanding.
Absolutely. It's not about shutting down opposing views, but rather about engaging with them in a constructive way.
Which is so important in today's world, where everyone's just shouting their opinions.
Yeah, it's refreshing to see someone using their platform to encourage dialogue and critical thinking.
It really is, and it's a great reminder that challenging established narratives doesn't always have to be aggressive or confrontational.
Right. It can be creative and engaging and even a little bit fun.
So I guess what we're seeing here is that artistic expression can be a powerful tool for knowledge sharing and critical thinking.
Absolutely. It makes you wonder if this fusion of creativity and intellectual rigor
Yeah.
could be a more effective way to approach complex topics in our current information-saturated world.
It's definitely something to think about. And you know what? I think
Ah.
our listeners should check out Firebrand Atheist and other creators like them.
Yeah.
See how they're using rap and poetry to challenge ideas and spark conversation.
I agree. It's a fascinating way to learn. And who knows, maybe it'll even inspire some of our listeners to add their own voices to the mix.
Maybe even through rap or poetry.
You never know.
All right, well, that's our deep dive for today. Thanks for listening.
Thanks for having me.
And keep those brains buzzing.
Always.